The chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from 73 different species. Ambassador Hyun Park stood alone in the center, his dark suit looking plain compared to the colorful forms surrounding him. Above him, council members sat in curved rows that stretched up toward the ceiling. Some had wings, some had multiple limbs, and others floated in special containment fields. All of them were staring at him. Hyun had prepared for this moment for 3 weeks. He had reviewed every law, every treaty, every promise humanity had made since joining the Galactic Council 30 years ago. Earth had followed the rules. They had shared their technology. They had helped fight pirates and rescue stranded ships. They had done everything right. But none of it mattered now. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Park of Earth," said the speaker, a tall being whose skin shimmered like oil on water. "You may present your defense." Hyun activated his display pad. Numbers and charts appeared in the air around him. "Honored council members," he began, keeping his voice steady. "Humanity has been accused of reckless expansion and dangerous technology development. I am here to show you that these accusations are false." He pulled up the first chart. In 30 years, humanity has established 47 colonies. The council average for a new species is 72. We are below the standard, not above it. He changed the display. Our military fleet consists of 300 ships. The Velthar Confederation has over 2,000. The Krell Dominion has 5,000. We are not a military threat. Councillor Velthara, an insectoid being with crystal-like wings, leaned forward. Her voice came through a translator device. "The issue is not your numbers, Ambassador. It is your rate of growth. What took us 10,000 years, you achieved in 300. What took the Krell 5,000 years of evolution, you matched in a single generation. You are too fast, too unpredictable, too dangerous." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Hyun felt his heart sink, but he pressed on. Progress is not a crime. Innovation is not a threat. Humanity has shared every discovery with the Council. Our medical research has saved billions of lives across dozens of species. Our fusion technology has powered worlds that were dying in darkness. Is this the behavior of a dangerous species? Your generosity today does not guarantee your intentions tomorrow, another council member said. This one looked like a floating jellyfish, its tentacles waving slowly. "Young species are unstable. They fight among themselves. They make reckless decisions. The rules exist for good reasons." Hyun wanted to scream. Instead, he took a breath and continued. "Humanity had wars, yes, in our past. But we unified over 200 years ago. We have one government, one purpose. We seek only to be good members of this council and contribute to galactic civilization. And that is precisely the problem." Velthara stood now, her wings catching the light. "You unified too quickly. You adapted too well. You learned too fast. Every elder species in this council struggled for millennia to reach the stars. You did it in mere centuries after discovering electricity. Do you understand what that means? It means you are unpredictable. It means we cannot trust your trajectory." The murmurs grew louder. Hyun saw the way this was going. He had seen it in the private meetings before this session. The decision was already made. This trial was just for show. "Then what do you want from us?" Hyun asked, his voice harder now. "Should we have stayed on Earth? Should we have refused to reach for the stars? Should we apologize for being good at survival?" "We want you to slow down," Velthara said simply. "Return to your home system. Dismantle your colonies. Reduce your fleet. Give the galaxy time to adjust to your presence. In perhaps 1,000 years, we can revisit your membership." The chamber fell silent. Hyun stared at her, unable to believe what he was hearing. "You want us to abandon 47 worlds, millions of people, homes we built with our own hands. You want us to destroy our ships and lock ourselves in a cage. We want you to prove you can be trusted," the speaker said. "The vote will now commence." Hyun wanted to say more. He wanted to list every contribution humanity had made, He wanted to point out that some council members had committed atrocities that humanity had never even imagined. He wanted to call them hypocrites and cowards. But he was a diplomat, so he stood silently and watched as the votes came in. 68 species voted to expel humanity from the Galactic Council. Only 5 voted against it. The decision was final. Earth will withdraw all presence beyond the Sol system within 1 standard year, the speaker announced. Failure to comply will result in military enforcement. This session is concluded. The display screens went dark. Hyun stood alone in the center of the chamber as council members filed out. Some looked at him with what might have been sympathy. Others looked pleased. Velthara passed close to him and paused. "I am sorry, Ambassador," she said quietly. "But you must understand. Your species frightens us. Not because you are cruel, but because you are capable. History has shown that capable species eventually seek dominance. We cannot allow that to happen." Then she was gone, and Hyun was alone in the empty chamber. Back on Earth, Admiral Ji-won Kim watched the transmission end. Her command center was silent. Officers and analysts sat at their stations, staring at blank screens. No one spoke. Ji-won was 56 years old. She had fought in the border wars against pirates. She had commanded rescue operations that saved thousands of lives. She had dedicated her entire career to protecting humanity and proving they deserved their place among the stars. And now in one vote it was all meaningless. Admiral. Her second-in-command, Captain Dae-hyun Lee, stood nearby. Orders? Ji-won stood and walked to the large window overlooking Earth. From here she could see the blue curve of the planet, the white swirls of clouds, the lights of cities on the night side, humanity's home, the place they were being told to stay like children sent to their room. "Summon all fleet commanders," she said quietly, "and get me a secure line to the President. We need to make some decisions." That night, President Min-ho Kang addressed the human worlds. His face appeared on every screen, every display, every communication device across Earth and the colonies. He looked tired but determined. "My fellow humans," he began. "Today the Galactic Council voted to expel us from their ranks. They have demanded that we abandon our colonies and return to Earth within 1 year. They claim we are too dangerous, too unpredictable, too fast in our development." He paused, letting the words sink in. "They are afraid of us." The president leaned forward. "But I want you to know something. We will not be going quietly into the dark. We will not abandon our homes. We will not destroy what we have built. Instead, we are going to show the galaxy exactly what humanity can do when we stop asking for permission." In her laboratory deep beneath the surface of Mars, Dr. Min-ji Choi received the classified message she had been expecting. She was the head of humanity's Experimental Weapons Division, a position that officially did not exist. For years, she had been developing technology that pushed the boundaries of physics itself, technology that the Council had forbidden. Now those restrictions no longer mattered. She opened the message from Admiral Ji-won Kim. It was brief. "All restrictions lifted, unlimited budget approved. Show us what you can do." Dr. Minji smiled. She had been waiting for this moment. She activated her communication console and called her research teams. "Everyone, listen up. We have work to do, a lot of work. The Council thinks they have seen what humanity is capable of. They have no idea." On the colonies, the reactions were mixed. Some people were frightened. They had built lives on these new worlds, and now they were being told to leave. Others were angry, ready to fight rather than surrender. Governor Junho Kwon of Haven's Reach, the largest human colony outside Earth, held an emergency assembly. "The Council wants us gone," he told the crowd of 10,000 colonists. "They think we will pack up and crawl back home like beaten dogs. I am here to ask you one question. What do we do?" The crowd erupted. "We stay," they shouted. "We fight." Junho nodded slowly. "Then we need to be ready. Because when Earth makes its move, we need to be prepared to support them. This is not the end of humanity's journey to the stars. This is just the beginning." In the shadows of deep space, Intelligence Director Bora Han was already at work. She commanded a network of spies and agents scattered throughout Council space. They had been gathering information for years, waiting for the moment they might be needed. That moment had arrived. She sent coded messages to her operatives. Priority Alpha activated, gather everything, military capabilities, political structures, weaknesses, fears. We need to know everything about every Council species. If we are going to survive this, we need to be smarter than all of them combined. The responses came back quickly. Her agents were ready. They had been ready for years. Admiral Ji-Won Kim stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the locations of every human ship, every colony, every facility. The Council thought they had won. They thought humanity would comply or be crushed. They were wrong. She opened a channel to every fleet commander, every colonial governor, every military installation. When they appeared on her screens, she could see the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. The Council has made their decision. 20 years had passed since humanity's exile. The galaxy had mostly forgotten about them. Council patrols occasionally scanned the edges of human space and reported minimal activity. A few ships moving between Earth and Mars, some basic mining operations in the asteroid belt. Nothing interesting, nothing threatening. The elder species were satisfied. The dangerous young race had been put in its place. They had complied with the Council's demands, or at least appeared to. Some species felt a twinge of guilt about it, but most simply moved on to other concerns. There were always new problems to deal with in a galaxy of 73 civilizations. What the Council did not know was that humanity had not complied at all. They had simply learned to hide. Captain Daehyun Lee stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, one of humanity's newest warships. Through the viewing window, he could see the construction yards of Sanctuary Station, built in the shadow of a dead star that gave off no light the Council's sensors could detect. Dozens of ships were being assembled, each one larger and more advanced than anything humanity had possessed before the exile. "Captain, we are ready for the inspection tour," his first officer reported. Lieutenant Soranam was young, only 28, but she was one of the best engineers in the fleet. She had designed the Indomitable's propulsion system herself. "Excellent," Daehyun said. "Let's see what we have built." The Indomitable moved away from the station and began its journey through the hidden network of human colonies. The first stop was Haven's Reach, the colony that Governor Junho Kwon had refused to abandon 20 years ago. Back then, it had been a small settlement of 10,000 people living in basic habitats. Now it was a fortress world. As the Indomitable approached, Daehyun could see massive defensive platforms orbiting the planet. Weapons batteries covered the surface. The population had grown to over 2 million. Factories and power plants dotted the landscape. Fighter craft patrolled in regular patterns. "They have built something impressive," Sora said quietly. Daehyun nodded. "And this is just one colony. We have over 300 more like it." The number was staggering. While the Council watched Earth and the obvious colonies in the Sol system, humanity had been spreading in secret. They used new faster-than-light drives that left no energy signature the Council could track. They traveled to regions of space the Council had declared worthless or uninhabitable. Dead star systems, nebula clouds, rogue planets drifting between stars. Humans found ways to survive everywhere. They built underground cities on frozen worlds. They established stations inside asteroids. They terraformed planets that other species said could never support life. What the Council called impossible, humanity called a challenge. The tour continued. The Indomitable visited colony after colony, each one a testament to human determination. There was New Sol, built inside a massive cave system on a planet with a toxic atmosphere. The colonists had learned to process the air and create breathable environments deep underground. From space, the planet looked dead. Beneath the surface, 3 million people lived and worked. There was Iron's End, a colony built around a neutron star. The colonists harvested the intense energy and used it to power manufacturing facilities that could produce materials no other species could create. The heat would kill most species. Humans had found a way to thrive in it. There was Whisper Station, hidden inside a nebula so dense that sensors could not penetrate it. Inside the colorful clouds, humanity had built a massive research facility, where Dr. Minji Choi's scientists worked on projects that would have terrified the council. At each stop, Daehyun met with local commanders and governors. They all told him the same thing. They were ready. Ready for whatever came next. Ready to fight if needed. Ready to show the galaxy what humanity had become. After 3 weeks of travel, the Indomitable arrived at the last stop on the tour. This was the most important location in hidden human space. They called it Shadow's Edge. It was not a colony. It was not a station. It was a shipyard larger than anything the council had ever built. It orbited a black hole, using the intense gravity to power construction facilities that ran day and night. Here, humanity was building its new fleet. Daehyun stared at the rows of ships in various stages of construction. There were hundreds of them. Capital ships 5 times the size of the Indomitable, carrier vessels that could launch thousands of fighters, destroyers bristling with weapons, battleships with armor that could withstand anything the council had. How many? He asked. Current count is 437 capital ships, Sora reported. Another 600 support vessels. Completion time for the full fleet is estimated at 18 months. Daehyun did some quick math in his head. When completed, this would be the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. It would rival the fleet strength of the major council species. And the council had no idea it existed. He opened a secure channel back to Earth. The quantum communication system ensured the message could not be intercepted. Admiral Jiwon Kim's face appeared on the screen. She was older now, her hair gray, but her eyes were still sharp. "Report, Captain," she said. "All colonies are at full operational capacity, Admiral," Daehyun reported. "Population stands at over 500 million across the hidden network. Military production is ahead of schedule. The fleet will be ready in 18 months. Admiral Jiwon smiled. It was the smile of a predator that had been waiting patiently for the right moment to strike. "Excellent. Return to Earth. We have another matter to discuss." When Daehyun arrived back on Earth, he was taken directly to a secure facility deep underground. This was where humanity's leadership made the decisions that would shape their future. President Minho Kang was there, looking older but still strong. Dr. Minji Choi sat next to him, surrounded by data displays. And next to them was someone Daehyun had heard about but never met. Intelligence Director Bora Han looked like she could be someone's grandmother. She had gray hair and a kind face. But Daehyun knew she commanded the most extensive spy network in human history. Her agents had infiltrated every major council species government. "Captain Lee," Bora said pleasantly, "I have heard good things about you. Please sit." Daehyun sat, feeling slightly nervous. These were the people who had guided humanity through 20 years of secret growth. They had turned an exile into an opportunity. "We are at a crossroads," President Kang began. "The fleet is nearly complete. The colonies are strong. Our technology is advanced beyond anything the Council possesses. The question is, what do we do now?" Dr. Minji activated a holographic display. It showed a comparison chart between human technology and Council technology. In every category, humanity was ahead, sometimes by a little, often by a lot. "We have achieved things they said were impossible," she said. "Our ships are faster. Our weapons are stronger. Our shields are better. We have manufacturing capacity that rivals the entire Council combined, and they do not know any of this exists." "My agents report that the Council is complacent," Bora added. "They believe humanity is contained. They think we are slowly declining, isolated in our home system. Some species have even suggested removing the restrictions because they think we are no longer a threat." She laughed softly. "They have no idea." Admiral Jiwon leaned forward. "The question is timing. We have the power to reveal ourselves now. But should we? Or should we wait and grow even stronger?" The discussion went on for hours. Some argued for patience. They could keep building, keep expanding, and become even more powerful. Others argued for action. The longer they waited, the more risk there was of being discovered accidentally. Finally, President Kang made the decision. "We wait for the right moment. Not a moment of our choosing, but a moment when the Council needs us. When they are desperate, that is when we reveal what humanity has become." Daehyun understood the logic. If humanity simply appeared and announced their empire, the Council might unite against them out of fear. But if they appeared as saviors in a moment of crisis, the galaxy would see them differently. "How do we know such a moment will come?" he asked. Bora smiled. "Because I have been watching the Krell Dominion. They are building a fleet, a very large fleet, and they are becoming aggressive in their border regions. My analysis suggests they will move against the Council within 2 years. And when they do, Admiral Jiwan said, humanity will be ready. Back in his quarters that night, Daehyun thought about everything he had seen. 20 years ago, humanity had been humiliated and cast out. Now they had built an empire in secret. Hundreds of worlds, millions of people working together toward a single goal. He thought about the Council species who had voted to exile them. They had been afraid of humanity's potential. They had tried to contain it by force. They had failed to understand that you cannot cage human ambition. You can only redirect it. And humanity had redirected their ambition into building something the galaxy had never seen before. Not just a fleet, not just colonies, but a civilization that could stand on its own. A civilization that did not need the Council's permission to exist. The next day, Daehyun attended a briefing at Fleet Command. The room was filled with officers from across human space. Admiral Jiwan stood at the front, a massive star chart displayed behind her. The attack came exactly as Intelligence Director Borahan had predicted. The Krell Dominion launched their invasion with overwhelming force, striking 3 Council systems simultaneously. Their fleet was massive, over 500 warships, and they moved with brutal efficiency. The first system fell in less than a day. The Defenders, a species called the Tauren, barely had time to send a distress signal before their orbital defenses were destroyed. The Krell bombardment from space was merciless. Cities burned. The survivors surrendered within hours. The second system lasted longer. The Havoc Collective had a stronger military and fought back hard. But they were outnumbered and outgunned. After 3 days of fighting, they too surrendered. The Krell demanded tribute and hostages. The Havoc had no choice but to comply. The third system was still fighting when the Council finally responded. They sent a fleet of 200 ships, the largest force they could assemble quickly. It should have been enough. The Council had been the dominant power in the galaxy for thousands of years. Their ships were good, their tactics proven, their commanders experienced. The battle lasted 6 hours. The Council fleet was destroyed. Only a handful of ships escaped to bring news of the disaster. Panic spread through Council space. The Krell were not just raiding. This was a full conquest. They were taking territory and seemed unstoppable. Emergency sessions were called. Military reserves were activated. And for the first time in memory, the Council faced the possibility of defeat. 3 days after the battle, a message arrived at Council headquarters on Nexus Prime. The sender was unknown. The encryption was unfamiliar, but the message was clear enough. We have been watching. We can help, but you must ask. The Council debated for hours. Some members argued against responding. Pride and fear mixed together. Others were more practical. They were facing annihilation. If someone was offering help, they should take it. Finally, the message was sent to the coordinates provided. It was a simple request. The Galactic Council requests military assistance against the Krell Dominion threat. Terms can be negotiated. The response came instantly. Prepare for human arrival. 3 days. The Council chamber erupted in shock. Humans? How could humans help? They had been contained in their home system for 20 years. They had maybe 300 old ships. What could they possibly do against the Krell? Some Council members wanted to retract the message. But it was too late. The response had been clear. Humans were coming. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Taeyang Shin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vengeance. Around him, the first expeditionary fleet assembled in formation. 200 capital ships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. Ships that had been built in secret, tested in hidden systems and crewed by people who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Taeyang was 45 years old. He had been a child when humanity was exiled from the Council. He had grown up hearing stories about the humiliation, the injustice, the anger. Now he commanded the fleet that would show the galaxy what humanity had become. All ships report ready, Admiral, his communications officer reported. Excellent, Taeyang said. He opened a fleet-wide channel. His voice reached every captain, every crew member, every soldier in the massive fleet. Today we reveal ourselves to the galaxy, not as the weak species they cast out, not as beggars asking for permission, but as the power we have always had the potential to become. The Council is watching. The Krell are watching. Let us show them what humanity means. The fleet activated their jump drives, the new engines that engineer Soranam had designed, engines that could cross vast distances in hours instead of weeks. In a flash of light, 200 human warships vanished from Earth space. In the Nexus system, the Krell fleet was preparing for their final assault on the Council's capital. Their commander, war leader Thrak, stood on his command ship and watched the defensive positions with satisfaction. The Council had assembled everything they could, but it would not be enough. Perhaps 400 ships defended Nexus Prime. His fleet of 500 would sweep them aside. "Begin the attack," he ordered. The Krell fleet moved forward. Their ships were brutal designs covered in weapons and armor. They did not believe in elegant tactics. They believed in overwhelming firepower and relentless assault. It had worked for thousands of years. Then the sensors started screaming. "Jump signatures," the sensor officer shouted. "Multiple contacts. Very large." Thrak stared at the display. Contacts were appearing all around his fleet. Hundreds of them. No, not hundreds. 200 exactly. Large ships, unknown configuration, moving with perfect precision. "Identify them," he demanded. "Unknown ship class, unknown origin," the officer stammered. "Wait, we are receiving a transmission." All channels. A face appeared on every screen in the Krell fleet. A human face. Admiral Taeyang Shin looked directly at the camera, his expression calm. "This is Fleet Admiral Taeyang Shin of the Earth Defense Federation. The Krell Dominion will withdraw immediately from Council space. You will release all prisoners and return all captured territory. This is your only warning. Refuse and you will be destroyed." For a moment there was silence. Then Thrak started laughing. "Humans?" The Council had called humans for help. The weak species that had been exiled 20 years ago. "Return the transmission," he ordered. When the connection opened, he smiled at the human admiral. "I am War Leader Thrak of the Krell Dominion. We do not take orders from primitives. Whatever ships you have stolen or borrowed, they will not save you. Attack us and you will die along with the Council." He cut the connection and turned to his weapons officer. "Destroy them." The Krell fleet opened fire. Thousands of weapons discharged simultaneously, filling space with energy beams and missiles. It was enough firepower to destroy a planet. The human ships activated their shields. The weapons fire splashed against them like water against stone. Not a single hit penetrated. "Impossible," Thrak whispered. "All ships, weapons free." Admiral Taeyang ordered calmly. "Show them what we have built." The human fleet fired. Their weapons were different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Beam weapons that could slice through Krell armor like paper. Missiles that moved so fast they could not be intercepted. Railguns that accelerated projectiles to fractions of light speed. Krell ships exploded. One after another, they were torn apart by human weapons. War Leader Thrak watched in horror as his fleet, the pride of the Dominion, was systematically destroyed. "Retreat," he screamed. "All ships retreat." The surviving Krell vessels tried to run. Their jump drives spooled up. But the human ships were faster. They pursued, hunting down every ship that tried to escape. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, the Krell fleet was gone. 497 ships destroyed. 3 ships escaped, and only because Admiral Taeyang let them go. They needed to carry the message back to the Dominion. Humanity had returned, and they were stronger than anyone had imagined. In the Council chamber on Nexus Prime, the members watched the battle in stunned silence. They had seen the sensor readings. They had watched the Krell fleet, the force that had seemed unstoppable, be swept aside like insects. A face appeared on their main display. Not Admiral Taeyang this time, but a woman in diplomatic dress. Jisoo Yoon, humanity's new ambassador to the galaxy. She looked nothing like the apologetic Hyun Park who had stood before them 20 years ago. She looked confident, powerful, dangerous. "Members of the Galactic Council," she said. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. "Humanity has returned. As you can see, we have used our time in exile productively. We have built a fleet. We have established colonies. We have created an empire that rivals your own." The council members sat frozen, some in shock, some in fear, some in anger. "We saved you from the Krell," Jisoo continued. "We could have let them destroy you. We could have watched from a distance and done nothing. But despite how you treated us, we chose to help, because that is what civilized species do." Counselor Velthara, the insectoid who had led the vote to exile humanity, finally found her voice. "How?" she demanded. "How did you build all of this?" We were watching your system. Our patrols reported nothing, Jisoo smiled. You were watching where you expected us to be. You never thought to look where you did not expect us. A simple mistake, and it cost you 20 years of ignorance while we grew stronger. This is a threat, another council member said. You bring warships to our capital. You demonstrate your power. What are your demands? Demands? Jisoo looked surprised. We do not have demands. We have terms. Terms for our continued cooperation and protection. Terms for a new galactic order, where young species are not punished for being successful. She pulled up a display. A document appeared, floating in the air of the council chamber. These are humanity's proposals for reforming the Galactic Council. Equal representation for all species regardless of age, elimination of discriminatory laws, open trade routes, and most importantly, a recognition that military strength does not equal military threat. You expect us to agree to this? Velthara said. After you humiliate us by revealing your secret empire? I expect you to be pragmatic, Jisoo replied. The Krell are still out there. You just saw what one of their fleets could do. 6 months had passed since humanity's dramatic return. The galaxy was still adjusting to the new reality. Human warships patrolled council space, protecting trade routes and responding to threats. Human diplomats negotiated with dozens of species. Human corporations began establishing trade agreements and business partnerships. The Galactic Council was meeting again, but this time was different. President Minho Kang, leader of the Earth Defense Federation, was attending in person. He arrived at Nexus Prime in a massive ship that made the council members' vessels look small by comparison. An honor guard of 50 warships escorted him, a clear demonstration of humanity's power. The council chamber had been modified. A new seat had been added at the same level as the elder species, not in the lower sections where young species traditionally sat. The message was obvious. Humanity would not be treated as junior members anymore. President Kang entered the chamber. He was 70 years old now, but he moved with confidence and authority. Behind him walked Ambassador Jisoo Yoon and a team of human advisors. They took their positions and the session began. The council recognizes President Kang of Earth, the speaker announced, the same being who had presided over humanity's exile 20 years ago. He looked uncomfortable now. Thank you, President Kang said. He stood and activated a holographic display. I am here to present humanity's formal proposals for reforming the Galactic Council. We have shared these documents with all member species. Today, we will vote on them. The proposals appeared in the air. There were dozens of specific changes, but they all pointed in one direction: an end to the old system where elder species controlled everything and young species had no real voice. The first proposal, President Kang continued, is equal representation. Every species, regardless of age or size, will have an equal vote in council decisions. No more hierarchy based on how long a species has been spacefaring. Murmurs of protest came from several council members. This struck at the heart of how the council had operated for thousands of years. The second proposal is elimination of all discriminatory laws. No species can be restricted in their expansion or development simply because they are young. If they can build colonies, they should be allowed to build them. If they can create technology, they should be allowed to use it. More protests, but President Kang pressed on. The third proposal is open trade. All council space must be accessible to all member species. No more exclusive trading zones or protected markets for elder species only. He paused and looked around the chamber. And finally, the most important proposal. Humanity will serve as the primary military guarantor of galactic peace. We will maintain the largest fleet and respond to threats against any council member. In exchange, other species will reduce their military forces by 40% and redirect those resources to economic development. The chamber erupted. This was too much. Several council members stood, shouting objections. Councillor Velthera's wings shimmered with agitation. You ask us to disarm while you remain armed? She demanded. This is not reform. This is conquest by another name. President Kang remained calm. Is it? Consider what we are offering. We will protect you from threats like the Krell. We will patrol trade routes at our expense. We will respond to emergencies across the galaxy. All we ask is that you stop wasting resources on maintaining massive military forces that could not even defend you when the Krell attacked. And what happens when you decide to turn those weapons on us? Another council member asked. Who protects us from humanity? The same thing that protects you now, President Kang replied. Mutual interest. We need trading partners, not subjects. We need allies, not enemies. Conquering the Council would give us nothing but headaches and resistance. Working with you as equals gives us prosperity and peace. The debate continued for hours. Some species were supportive, others were firmly opposed. The elder species, the ones who had held power for so long, were especially resistant. But President Kang had an advantage. While the Council debated, other things were happening across the galaxy. Ambassador Narration, humanity's representative to what she called the Minor Species Coalition, had been very busy for the past 6 months. She had visited dozens of worlds, meeting with species that the Council had marginalized for thousands of years, species that were considered too young, too small, or too unimportant to have real influence. To these species, humanity's message was simple: the old order had failed. It was time for something new. On the world of Tepes, Ambassador Nari met with the leaders of the Tepesan people. They were a peaceful species who had been spacefaring for only 200 years. The Council had restricted them to just 5 colonies, claiming they needed to prove their stability before being allowed to expand further. Humanity was restricted too, Nari told them. We were told to stay in our home system or face military action. Instead, we built an empire in secret. Now we are offering you something better. Join us in reforming the Council, and you will be free to grow without artificial limitations. The Tepesan leaders agreed immediately. Their support was not surprising. What was surprising was how many other species felt the same way. The Karash, the Denali, the Fidian Confederacy, the New Velen Republic, dozens of young species that had been held back by Council rules. They all saw humanity as liberators, as proof that the elder species' dominance was not inevitable. A coalition formed. When the vote finally came on humanity's proposals, it was not just humans voting for change. It was nearly half the Council. Meanwhile, corporate leader Jay Wan was working on another front. He led the Terran Development Corporation, the largest human business enterprise. His goal was simple: make human economic influence so widespread that the galaxy could not imagine functioning without it. He started with technology sharing. Human fusion reactors were more efficient than anything the Council had. Jay Wan offered them to Council worlds at very reasonable prices. The catch was that humans would maintain and operate them. Within months, dozens of worlds depended on human technicians to keep their power running. Then came manufacturing. Human factories could produce goods faster and cheaper than most Council industries. Jay Wan established partnerships with local businesses, providing equipment and training. Soon, major sectors of Council economies had human involvement. Transportation was next. Human ships with their advanced engines could move cargo faster than anyone else. Shipping companies across the galaxy began contracting with human carriers. Trade routes that once took weeks now took days. The Council can debate politics all they want, Jay Wan told his executives, but while they debate, we are making ourselves essential. Every world that uses our technology, employs our workers, or depends on our trade is a world that will think twice before opposing us. It was economic warfare, but without any actual war. Just smart business that happened to serve humanity's strategic interests. Admiral Yunji Park, who had been Admiral Jiwon Kim's second-in-command for years, now led the Second Fleet. Her orders were to demonstrate that human military presence was permanent and undeniable. She took her fleet on what she called freedom of navigation exercises throughout Council space. She would arrive at a system, conduct patrols, run training drills, and then move on. Always polite, always professional. Always making it clear that human ships would go wherever they wanted. Some species protested. The elder species especially hated these exercises, but none of them could do anything about it. The human fleet was too strong. Any attempt to interfere would result in a confrontation no one wanted. Let them protest, Admiral Yunji said to her officers. Protests do not hurt us. What matters is that every species in the galaxy sees our ships, knows our capabilities, and understands that we are here to stay. Back in the Council chamber, the vote was approaching. 6 months of debate, negotiation, and political maneuvering had led to this moment. President Kang stood once more to address the Council. I understand your concerns, he said. You are afraid of change. You are afraid of losing power. You are afraid that humanity will become what you once feared. But consider the alternative. He gestured to the displays showing the current state of the galaxy. The Krell are still out there. They are rebuilding their fleet. Other threats exist that we have not even encountered yet. The old Council system could not defend you. You saw that when they attacked. Without humanity's intervention, many of you would be dead or enslaved right now. He let that sink in. We are offering you a partnership. Yes, we will be the strongest military power, but that strength protects all of us. Yes, we want equal representation, but that means everyone has an equal voice, not just us. Yes, we want open trade, but open trade benefits everyone who has goods to trade. Or, he continued, his voice harder now, you can reject these proposals. You can try to continue as before. But understand this, humanity will not be going away. We will not be reducing our fleet. We will not be limiting our colonies. We built an empire without your permission. We can continue to grow without your blessing. The only question is whether we grow together or separately. The threat was subtle but clear. Humanity would do what it wanted regardless of the Council's decision. The choice was whether to be part of the new order or be left behind by it. 10 years had passed since the reformation of the Galactic Council. Humanity's influence had grown beyond anything the founders could have imagined. Human colonies numbered in the thousands. Human corporations controlled major sectors of the galactic economy. The Earth Defense Federation fleet was the largest military force in known space. Everyone called it what it really was now: the Terran Empire. Commodore Seojun Lim commanded a patrol fleet on the frontier of human space. He was young, only 32, part of the generation that had grown up after humanity's return. He had not experienced the exile, the years of secret building, the desperate struggle to prove humanity's worth. To him, human dominance was normal. Expected. His fleet was patrolling the Outer Rim, a region of space that humans had colonized in the years after the Reformation. These were rough worlds far from the civilized core, where rules were often interpreted loosely and corporate interest held more power than governments. Sir, we are approaching the Talos system, his navigation officer reported. The colony there has requested inspection. Seojun nodded. Take us in. Let's see what this is about. Talos was a mining colony, established 7 years ago by the Terran Development Corporation. The official population was 30,000 humans and associated workers. As the fleet approached, Seojun studied the sensor readings. Everything seemed normal. Mining operations, cargo ships, the usual infrastructure. But something felt wrong. Launch a survey shuttle, he ordered. I want eyes on the ground. The shuttle landed at the main colony center. Seojun went down himself along with a small security team. The colonial administrator met them at the landing pad. His name was Administrator Kyung, a middle-aged man who looked nervous. Commodore Lim, this is unexpected, Kyung said. We did not request an inspection. Your automated system sent a standard check-in request, Seojun replied. Just routine. Unless there is a problem? No problem, Kyung said quickly. Too quickly. Seojun decided to look around. What he found made him sick. Beyond the main colony, hidden in the mining operations, were thousands of beings from a local species. They were primitive, barely at industrial age technology. They were working in the mines, living in terrible conditions, wearing restraints. What is this? Seojun demanded. Administrator Kyung tried to explain. They are local inhabitants. The planet had them when we arrived. We are providing them with jobs, food, housing. It is all legal. They signed labor contracts. They are slaves, Seojun said flatly. These beings are not advanced enough to understand what they signed. You are exploiting them. The colonial charter allows for employment of indigenous labor, Kyung argued. We have done nothing illegal. And frankly, Commodore, this is a civilian matter. Military has no authority here. Seojun wanted to arrest everyone involved. But Kyung was right. The colonial charter, written loosely to encourage expansion, did technically allow this, and military authority over civilian operations was limited. He returned to his ship and sent a detailed report to Fleet Command. The response came back 3 days later. No action to be taken. Colony is operating within chartered rights. Continue patrol duties. Seojun stared at the message in disbelief. He had joined the military to protect people, to uphold humanity's values. But this was wrong. They had become exactly what the Council had feared, a powerful species exploiting weaker ones. He was not alone in his concerns. Across human space, others were beginning to question the Empire's direction. Ye Jin Ha had been a commander in the Earth Defense Federation for 15 years. She had fought pirates, protected colonies, and served with honor. But she had resigned her commission 2 years ago, unable to accept what humanity was becoming. Now she ran a small organization called the Conscience Movement. It was made up of former military, scientists, civilians, anyone who believed humanity had lost its way. They investigated abuses, published reports, and spoke out against the Empire's excesses. "We fought to be respected," Ye Jin said in one of her public addresses. The speech was broadcast across human networks. "We built an empire to prove we were worthy of equality. But somewhere along the way we forgot why we were fighting. We became the oppressors. We became what we hated." She held up evidence of various abuses: colonies that exploited indigenous populations, corporations that destroyed environments for profit, military actions that went beyond defense into aggression. Not everywhere. Not in most places, but enough that a pattern was forming. "This is not who we are supposed to be," Ye Jin said. "We can be better. We must be better." Her movement grew slowly. Most humans were happy with the Empire. They had wealth, security, and power. Why complain? But a significant minority agreed with Ye Jin. They remembered the ideals that had driven humanity during the exile. They wanted those ideals back. The crisis came from an unexpected direction. Councillor Velthera, the insectoid elder who had led the vote to exile humanity 30 years ago, was old now. But she had been watching, planning, gathering support among species that resented human dominance. She formed a secret coalition of elder species. Their goal was to overthrow the Reformed Council and restore the old order. It was a desperate plan, poorly organized but driven by genuine fear. They had seen humanity grow from exiles to empire in just 30 years. What would humanity do with another 30 years? Another 100? The coup attempt began with a vote to expel humanity from the council again. The coalition had enough votes lined up. It should have worked, but they had not counted on intelligence director Bora Han. She was 70 now, but her spy network was better than ever. She knew about the coup before it started. The vote was called. Before it could proceed, Admiral Yoonji Park's fleet arrived at Nexus Prime. 200 warships, weapons ready. The message was clear. Any vote to expel humanity would be considered an act of war. The coup collapsed immediately. No one wanted to fight humanity. The fleet was too strong. Chancellor Wonshik Bey, who had succeeded President Kang 5 years ago, saw an opportunity. He called an emergency session and proposed dissolving the council entirely. "The council has proven unreliable," he said. "Twice now it has acted against humanity, first by exiling us, now by attempting another coup. Clearly, this system does not work. I propose direct Earth governance over all civilized space. For stability, for peace." The room fell silent. This was not reform. This was conquest. Admiral Ji-won Kim, now 90 years old but still mentally sharp, heard about the proposal. She had retired years ago, spending her time writing and teaching, but she still had influence. When she spoke, people listened. She went to the council herself. She had not been there in years. When she entered the chamber, everyone stood. Human and alien alike, she was a living legend, the architect of humanity's return. "Chancellor Bey," she said, her voice still strong, "I have a question for you. Why did we build this empire?" The Chancellor looked surprised. "To prove our worth. To show the galaxy what humanity could achieve." "No," Admiral Ji-won said firmly. "We built this empire because we were cast out unjustly. We built it to prove we deserved respect, not dominance. We built it to be better than those who judged us, not to become them." She turned to address the entire chamber. 30 years ago, the council exiled us because they feared we would seek power and control. I told President Kang then that we would prove them wrong. We would show the galaxy that humanity's strength lies not in our weapons, but in our character. She looked at the Chancellor. "If we dissolve the council and impose direct rule, we prove that the council was right to fear us. We prove that we are exactly what they thought we were, conquerors dressed in noble words." "But Admiral," the Chancellor argued, "we are the strongest power in the galaxy. We have earned the right to lead." "Strength does not equal right," Ji-won replied, "and leadership is not the same as dominance. True leadership means inspiring others to be better, not forcing them to obey. Her words sparked a fierce debate, not just in the council but across human space. Town halls were held. Public forums raged with discussion. News broadcasts devoted entire programs to the question, what kind of empire should humanity be? Commodore Seojin Lim watched the debates from his ship. He had been angry and frustrated since the Talos incident, but now he felt hope. Maybe things could change. Maybe humanity could correct course before it was too late. The debate lasted for weeks. In the end, humanity made a choice. Chancellor Wanchik Bey's proposal was rejected. The council would remain, with humanity as a leading member, but not sole ruler. More importantly, a new charter was written, the rights of sentient species. It protected all beings, regardless of their level of development, from exploitation and abuse. The Talos colony was shut down. Administrator Kyung was prosecuted. The indigenous species were freed and given compensation. It was not enough to undo the harm, but it was a start. Commodore Seojin Lim was promoted to admiral and given a new assignment. He would lead the protection fleet, a force dedicated to enforcing the new charter, finding abuses, stopping exploitation, making sure humanity lived up to its own ideals. Yejin Ha was appointed Inspector General, with authority to investigate any human operation anywhere in the Empire. She had the power to shut down colonies, arrest administrators, and bring charges against anyone who violated the charter.